So is there momentum in Georgia's wide receivers room? A couple of days now after the first scrimmage of the spring, easy enough for me to say. Let's talk about Zachariah Branch's possible impact on this team. I got a chance to talk to a couple of insiders. One specifically was talking about this who was not at the scrimmage, but I do know some folks that we talked to that were at the scrimmage said that Branch had at least one long ball. So something to keep in mind there on Zachariah Branch, who came from USC in the transfer portal over to Georgia. And he's a guy that people are very excited to watch. I got a premium story over on Dawg Post right now. I'll put it on the screen briefly here. This line right here, Zachariah Branch is absolutely legit. That's coming from somebody who has been watching football for a long, long time. And their hope is that, it's not just their hope, but a lot of people, are hoping at Georgia that this guy can really be an explosive playmaker for Georgia that they just didn't have last year, or they had him and it didn't work out quite in the way that it could have or should have. You talk about Arian Smith. He was not dependable the way he needed to be. He was Georgia's leading receiver, had a really good season, to be honest with you, but just not consistent at all. Here's the paragraph, and I'd encourage you to go over to Dawg Post. The link to this article is right down below. You can get the site right now for $1, and a lot of people are taking advantage of that opportunity. It's not going to be something that's up for a long time, okay? The $1 deal. Zachariah Branch is absolutely legit. He's not that big of a guy. He can make cuts. He is so low to the ground, it looks so fluid. He's going to be a difference maker if they can get him the ball. Georgia hasn't had a weapon like him since I've been watching Georgia. I'm not trying to overdo it, but he's very different. So when I was talking to that person, I said, yeah, but, Georgia had Ladd McConkey, who was really good not even that long ago. And I said, he was paired up with Brock Bowers and, had Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint on that team. You have to remember how good the receivers were in 21 and 22. Okay, all these guys were on the team. Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, George Pickens. You had A.D. Mitchell in 21 and 22. You had my brain. He went to Alabama right after that. Oh my gosh. Anyway, you had him. You had Dylan Bell in 22. You had Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint. They had some players. Jermaine Burton, excuse me, was the guy whose name I blanked on. They had some real players at Georgia in that time. So Stetson Bennett, you were not locking those guys down. I did not mention Darnell Washington, So there's a lot of enthusiasm about the tight ends, which I'm going to get to in a different video. One thing I will note about all of this is, I'm a pretty skeptical person about things. I think the scrimmage was okay, but I think there's a lot of hope right now. And I'm surprised that I'm a little bit surprised that there's as much optimism as there is from people who are watching practice. Because usually the people that I talk to are the yeah, but people. This, but it's not as good as people are making out to be. Stuff like that. So I've just learned in doing this as long as I have that it doesn't. Just because someone flashes in practice doesn't mean that they're going to really play well during games. And that's what I'm so skeptical of. But for instance, with Zachariah Branch specifically, he's going to be a different type of playmaker than, Taylor, the freshman coming in, or, the transfer in from A&M, or, probably more like Dylan Bell's capabilities, perhaps, is one way to put it. But if you've not seen Zachariah Branch play at SC, particularly in the 23 season, it was pretty spectacular. And I would encourage you to go watch those highlights. I don't have copyrights to them, so you're not going to watch them on this channel. But he was pretty legit, no question. I will say that the yeah, but in this conversation was, they could really be good throwing it if they can provide protection for Gunnar Stockton in the form of a run game. If they're not going to do that, it's going to be hard. Yeah. That's what it comes down to. Is you cannot just have one tool. You can't just have a hammer. You got to have a wrench. You got to have. It's got to all be there. And if it's not all there, it's not going to work. I mean, it's not going to be. It's not, if you can't run the ball, you're not going to have a lot of success throwing it. And as good as Carson was a season ago, and he was good, he just it's asking a lot to lean everything on that side of the offense. But you look at Branch, and back to back pretty positive seasons. Receiving the ball, he had 500 yards. It's in Big 10 play and a game against Notre Dame. But so it's not the SEC, but against better teams, Michigan 6 catches for 100 yards, Notre Dame 4 catches for 40 yards. UW, not a great team, 6 catches for 100 yards. He was pretty productive. And again, you need as many games from guys as you can get. You need as many Dillon Bell games as you can get. You think about the 23 season, Dillon Bell played outstanding against Tennessee. He played pretty well against South Carolina as well. So you need as many games like that as you can have. And when you get that, that means, for lack of a better term, Darnell Washington doesn't have to go off. He doesn't have to go off if Dillon Bell's going off. There's only so many things each person can go off. Yeah, Dillon, to say the Carolina game was his game, I don't know, maybe not. But the Tennessee game definitely was. He had a really good game against Tech. He played well against Florida State. But the Tennessee game where he had, didn't he throw a touchdown in that game too? I think he went for 90 yards receiving, 4 yards rushing. I think he threw a touchdown. But Dillon was, there were several games where, if they didn't have Dillon Bell, somebody else would have had to do it. He had 7 rushes for 23 yards against Carolina. One of them was a really good run, by the way. I can't remember. It was an 8-yard run against Carolina. But here's the thing about Dillon Bell is that Kirby and company. Look, I love Dillon Bell. I'm not going to stop talking about him. He knows what he can do. He's a really good player. He did not have a good 24. He just didn't. But, he's got his shot now to come back, and he's running the ball in practice some. And here's what Kirby had to say about him running the ball. He said, Dillon's taking some reps there. We mix Dillon in practice to practice. He works in the slot, talking about a receiver. He's trying to develop as a wide receiver and a back. Here's the important part. He goes, he's been great. Kirby says this about Dillon Bell. In a good attitude and being committed to. He says, this is Kirby talking about Dillon Bell. He says, Coach, if it means me playing 10, 15 snaps at running back, I want to do it. If I can develop at slot, I want to do it. So, look, it's hard to be that guy at practice, man. It's hard to be energetic, not get down. Dillon Bell's got something to prove in 2025. He's got something to prove. This team does, yeah, but, it's going to take Branch. It's going to take, Dillon. It's going to take all of these receivers. You still got London Humphreys. It's not like they don't have guys. They've got guys, but they need to elevate where they need to elevate their consistency from a year ago. And another thing, I can't believe I left him out, but Colby Young was another person that was mentioned to me by this insider saying, it's just another guy out there that can make plays. They didn't have to have a season to go. And when they did, it was not consistent. It was not a consistent thing. So are you changing the one thing that has been noticed by people that I talk to, the receivers on offense, it's definitely an upgrade in terms of the depth of all of it. So what will that mean this season? I don't know. My skepticism is high on all of these things until we see them go play in Knoxville. Now, I reserve the right to change my mind after the first 2 games, but it's really going to be, how do you perform on the road in Knoxville? Gunnar Stockton has never played on the road, and we'll talk about that as a starter, but he's played in pressure, so I don't think I'm overly concerned about him. Nealon is a beast for sure, but these receivers should help Georgia navigate their way through the 2025 season. Thanks for watching.